Welcome to the broadcast. Tonight from Washington, the president of Sinn Féin, Gerry Adams, joins us. It's the third time he's been on the broadcast. We'll talk about what's happening in Washington, his conversations with the president. Also, Jerry Lewis, acting comedian, back on Broadway in Damn Yankees. We'll have a conversation about a career and about a new stage in that career. We begin with Gerry Adams. He is in Washington. He meets with the president later today. By the time we broadcast, he will have met with the president. I am pleased to have him back and to wish him a happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you, Mr. Adams, for joining us again.
Thank you, Charlie, for having me, and a very happy St. Patrick's Day to you and to your viewers. And can I send best wishes also to Jerry Lewis? I've been a big fan of his for many, many years.
What do you hope to accomplish in this visit to New York and to Washington now that being allowed to fundraise in this country in a public way gives Sinn Féin some legitimacy? What do you hope to accomplish beyond that legitimacy?
Well, I think what the president did in an even-handed, balanced way was to afford Sinn Féin equality of treatment here with all the other parties. For a very long time, Irish parties, and some have taken this opportunity up, and British parties have had the opportunity to come to fundraise if they wished, to put their views. And Sinn Féin was always, through the censorship of visa denial, denied that right. And also, more importantly, I suppose, US citizens were denied their right to receive information so that they could make an informed, balanced opinion and judgment on the situation back in Ireland. So I think that we this trip, we seek to make progress on those issues. We have a peace process back at home. Your president played a remarkably positive role in engaging in that peace process. Each time of his engagement, he has moved the peace process on. I believe he has done so yet again, and I thank him and commend him for that.
He is asking you to put disarmament on the table, be part of the agenda. Will it be there, disarmament on the part of the British in Northern Ireland as well as the IRA?
Well, and my first, if you may recall, in my first visit here, I said quite clearly that I wanted to see the guns taken permanently out of Irish politics. I think we've made some progress since then. The silencing of the IRA guns was a fairly historical achievement. That persuaded the Loyalists to end their campaign. The British, of course, continue to engage in British Army and RUC military activities. And what we have said consistently, let's have demilitarisation. Let's have a change of the situation on a number of areas. Constitutional and political change, a change from the unfair system at the moment into a democratic one, and a change from the militarised situation into a demilitarised one. And how do you do that? You talk about it. And the decommissioning of weapons, clearly an objective which Sinn Féin would support.
Why don't you go ahead and urge the IRA to disarm ahead of time, because this peace accord has come, this process has come a remarkable distance since you were allowed a visa to come here, and because of the president, as you said, and because of a lot of people who believe that at long last peace was the best option. Why don't you take the further step and urge the IRA to disarm and get the British talking with you directly?
Well, first of all, we have an electoral mandate. Sinn Féin is not an army. Sinn Féin is an electoral party which has support. And indeed, some of our supporters and members, including elected members and their children, have died. 20-odd people have died because there was a serious, vicious attempt made to undermine our mandate. Now, the British government need to recognise that they have to give to us the equality of treatment back in our own country in Ireland that we can now get here in the USA. Why can't I get the IRA to surrender its weapons? The British Army, for 25 years, couldn't get the IRA to surrender. I, as one person, and I'm likely to succeed, where the might of successive British governments and their armed forces couldn't succeed. But I want to use my influence. There's a collective influence for everyone involved in this situation to move it on, to move through all the various phases, and demilitarisation is a very important phase. I want to see, more than perhaps anyone else, I've been a victim of terrorism. I want to see the guns taken permanently out of the situation. And also, if I can say so, one of the reasons why we've been able to manage the peace process so well, and why we've been able to make such progress, is that we have been able to use our best judgment on how to move that situation on.
How much split is there within the community that you represent, both in terms of Sinn Féin and the IRA, with respect to what you have done so far?
Well, there are always tensions and pressures but there is a very, very, very disciplined commitment to this peace process. The tensions and the pressures come from the fact that the British Army are still there with all of their guns. In fact, they raided Sinn Féin offices in Gerry very recently and arrested some of our
But they've also
councillors.
been withdrawing, as you know.
Well, they've only withdrawn 400 out of 30,000, and even that isn't on a permanent
But that's
basis.
the largest withdrawal. That recent withdrawal is the largest withdrawal they've had in a long time.
And I welcome that, but measure that against the generosity of whatever one thinks of the IRA's campaign, the decisive nature of the IRA ending its campaign. They didn't do it in a piecemeal fashion. They stopped. Now, the British Army, the British forces need to, through the government, to respond with the flexibility and the generosity which is required.
Well, have they stopped or not? As you know, they've found an explosive, and some say it's a Semtex explosive, and the people who use Semtex explosives are the IRA.
Well, the British, as far as I am concerned, are not even suggesting that, I've had information from home, are not even suggesting that it was the IRA. The Irish Prime Minister, Mr. Bruton, I heard him today, disclaiming that it was the IRA. I myself don't believe there was any Republican involvement in it whatsoever. In fact, I suspect British dirty tricks involvement in this situation. I'm only pleased and glad that no one was hurt in that dud bomb.
I want to get to the positive side of this story in just a moment, but let me just stay with where the conflict is. John Major says, why don't you denounce terrorism in the same way that Yasser Arafat has denounced terrorism?
Well, I do think that Mr. Major should stop making excuses and start making peace. If I wanted to make demands of the British Prime Minister, if I wanted to say, why doesn't he withdraw his troops? Why doesn't he apologise for the hurt done by his government and his forces upon the people that I represent? I could do all of that, and the unionists could do the same thing, and other nationalists could do the same thing. I think that's the way to make progress in this.
But how easy is it to denounce terrorism and just go
Well,
out?
I've always denounced terrorism, Charlie. That is not a problem for me. And can I say, furthermore, that the Palestinians and the Israeli government have a peace accord. How did they get a peace accord? They talked. We have yet to get peace in Ireland. We have made, I think, very substantial progress. We've made a great beginning to get peace in Ireland. But that needs, it isn't a one-way street. It's a two-way street. That needs Mr. Major engaging in the process in a more generous way than before. And if I can suggest, and I'm trying to be reasonable in this, I think the British government in many ways are caught up still in the psychology of war. I think they feel that in some way this trip by me to the USA is one up for Sinn Féin and one down by the British government. And that thing of keeping score is not the way to make peace. So we need a new psychology by the British, by everyone else, not a psychology of war, but a psychology based on the reality of peacemaking.
Let me talk about that moment, because John Bruton was here at on this broadcast, sitting here at this table next to me early in the week. And he said some very nice things about you, as a matter of fact. And he said that you are different than he imagined, that he's come around to believe in you and in the seriousness of your purpose. He also said that both sides in this have to come to a new psychology, a new understanding, put away almost outmoded ways of thinking about the solutions to the problems and the conflict in Northern Ireland, in terms of it's not black or white. It's not a question of joining Ireland, or it's not a question of simply being part of Britain. It's somehow there has to be a new way of thinking about that. I know you know his thoughts on it. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think we do need a new agreed Ireland, but it isn't a matter of whether we could be part of Ireland. We are part of Ireland. I am of the island of Ireland. I am an Irishman born in Belfast, County Antrim. I am part of the island and the nation of Ireland. Today, as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day and the entire diaspora, there's a sense of the creativity of Ireland, and what I would argue for, and I'm sure Mr. Bruton would agree, is the diversity of Irishness, that it isn't just for Catholic Irish, that it has to include Protestant Irish, and what we have to do is to create a new situation, a transformation of Irish society, to set aside divisions, to reflect all of the different traditions on the island. And again, how we do that, Mr. Bruton may have some ideas, I would have other ideas, someone else may have different ideas. Let's get together, all of us. Sinn Féin's only a small party. Let's get together with everyone else and forge a new future, a new beginning, where the hope that there is at the moment back home can meet the history that is there before us.